Erie, Pennsylvania. So much history in one little place. But how did this once seemingly small shipbuilding community transform itself to what we see today? Let's take a look at these historic events tonight on Project Algerine. In 1889, the Erie Electric Motor Company was formed, and its new manager, John Casement, had a plan.
I propose we begin construction on a trolley line to Massasauga Point.
The hotel at the western end of Presque Isle Bay was owned by wealthy railroad industrialist William L. Scott.
Whoa. Hold up there, gentlemen. Hey, you fellas lost, or you just hanging out in the woods together?
Two men from the motor company who were surveying Scott's land came up with two entirely different plans. Casement picked a route that would take passengers from State Street west over 8th and finally outside of the city limits. As the line moved west across the Lake Road, plans were put in place for a funeral car to stop at Trinity Cemetery. It was at this point that Casement's plan went into action. The trolley line turned north and ran behind the old El Patio Motel, behind the long-removed Scott's Motel, and continuing north towards the bluff. This is where things get a little tricky. The trolley line straddled these two properties before coming to a large ravine that required a 60-foot-high railroad trestle to be constructed using timbers from the Erie and Pittsburgh Railroad. Immediately upon crossing the trestle, the trolley made a sharp turn to the east and rode along the bluff, where a set of paths and stairs awaited the passengers to make their way to the resort hotel below. But before that can happen, Casement has to meet with Scott in New York City to seek permission to bring the trolley on his property. And these two men have a history of bad blood between them.
It's no secret to anyone that William Scott and I were not fond of each other. Let me just tell you something. Jack Casement is a pontificating windbag. I mean, did you see this guy at the Transcontinental Railroad ceremony? He tried to jump in there and hit that gold spike himself.
What a show-off. Let's send this guy back to Ohio.
I can assure you that did not happen. Yeah, it happened. The business matter at hand was the West 8th Street line crossing in front of the Erie and Pittsburgh Railroad near the Reed manufacturing plant. We needed to have his permission. So Casement came to see me in New York. I thought he was going to be crying about that stock thing. But he wanted to have his little trolley go down to the bayfront there. And we had a little meeting about it. Now, I know nothing about blocking stock purchases for Mr. Scott or his son-in-law, Charles Strong. I can assure you there's no truth to that. Of course it's true. These clowns tried to block my father-in-law and I from buying their trolley company stock. The simple truth is that my friends and I would not sell our stock for any price. It was just too good of an investment. Yeah, whatever. So I let Casement bring his trolley across West 8th Street and then down along the side of the Algeria farm so he could reach the hotel.
And that is when things started getting interesting.
In 1891, the new landlord of the Massasauga Hotel thinks he knows how to generate a profit by installing turnstiles and the ability to charge admission to the hotel grounds. Suddenly, the trolley cars are showing up to the hotel with less and less people. Yet somehow, the beach always seemed to be packed with people. This single change seemed to set off a chain of events that can still be seen to this day. The people were getting there another way. The citizens of Erie have found a loophole in the hotelier's plans. They are exiting the trolley at the Trinity Cemetery and walking down to the beach, avoiding the turnstiles altogether. The shift of people freely utilizing the beach towards the west of Massasauga Point angered the landlord of the hotel, who was forced to bring in attractions to get more people on the grounds. The first of such attractions was Prince Leo. Leo was a 13-year-old boy who would fill a giant balloon with hot air and take flight over the crowd. Once Leo reached an altitude of a few hundred feet, he would jump from the balloon with a makeshift parachute and gently glide into the awaiting crowds of adoring fans. Leo performed here for 3 seasons before an injury in New York State sidelined his career. The new landlord was also looking to move the roller coaster, which had been constructed by the previous landlord, James Campbell, calling it a nuisance, and pledged to move it the following year. Erie Motor Company manager John Casement leaves Erie for San Diego and is eventually replaced by the new manager, John Brady. The celebrations continued with the hosting of picnics for social organizations such as the Manicore Club and the Caledonian Club. But the party was cut short on September 11th when William Scott dies of heart failure in Rhode Island and is interred in the Erie Cemetery, leaving his son-in-law Charles Strong to manage his estate locally. A couple of months later, the Lone Fisherman's Inn, a popular restaurant just east of the Massasauga grounds, burns down and is replaced with the Tracy Point Hotel the following season, bringing more people to the area. But soon, Massasauga Point is going to make history. One of the most significant events in the history of Millcreek Township is about to unfold, creating lawsuits and litigation that lasted almost a decade. A pathway that found the Erie Motor Company spending much of their time defending themselves in court.
Good evening, Judge Gunnarsson. What brings you out on this frightful night? They're taking my land. It looks like they're making the area where the trolley pulls over a little longer.
Trolley sidings, or switches, were used to allow for multiple cars to run on the same line. The sidings were known as the Blacksmith or Cemetery Switch, the Herman Switch, the Tracy Switch, and the Ball Switch.
I don't think they're allowed to do this. West State Street is only chartered for a single line.
The manager of the Erie Motor Company sent crews of workmen in the middle of the night to extend the sidings from 120 to 160 feet. The first to file suits were Judge Gunnison, Conrad Hoffman, and Charles Strong, who was representing the estate of William L. Scott. In retaliation, the motor company parked several trolleys in front of the judge's house each night. This sparked a fury of protests by the residents. Even after the injunctions were filed, the motor company continued to operate using these switches, arguing that the demand for better traffic flow outweighed the property owner's rights. But the issue with the trolley sidings with Massasauga Point were just the beginning.
I've never been inside a mansion.
Get in here and sit down.
It's an awfully big house you got here, Mr. Strong. I'm surprised you don't get lost every day. That's what the staff is for, Tom. Now, can we get down to business? By all means, sir, continue. I assume that you've read in the news that the railroad companies will be hosting their summer picnic here this August. No, I didn't. News doesn't get to my part of town very quickly. Well, when the railroads converge in Erie this August, it's going to be one heck of a party. Yes, that does sound like a good time. And that's why we want you to stop it. To stop it, sir? Why would we want to do that? You see, Tom, sometimes there are decisions that executives such as myself have to make. So what do you suggest? I'm sure an enterprising young man like yourself who wants to move up the corporate ladder will think of something. Well, I realize that, sir, and I'm glad you called on me to solve your problems. I'm your man.
And sir, I'd like to thank you for making sure that our commodes were working properly. Here's a story you won't see in the history books. Good afternoon, ma'am. What a lovely day. I was wondering if you would like to attend the motion picture show with me tomorrow afternoon.
A motion picture show? I've never heard of such a thing. Of course I'll attend.
The city of New Orleans claims to have the first movie theater, opening on July 26, 1896, using Thomas Edison's Vitascope. I find this information fascinating considering the fact that the Vitascope Theater opened at Massasauga Point here in Erie, Pennsylvania, July 20th, 1896, a full 6 days before New Orleans. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Please take your seats. The show is about to begin. 300 wooden chairs were purchased from the Union City Chair Factory.
Patrons were charged 15 cents to enter the theater and watch the movies, which consisted of reels that lasted about 1 minute in length. And to top it off, there was even a controversy. One of the films included some, let's say, risque content for the time. The movies ran every day throughout the season, meaning this wasn't just a temporary demonstration. Thomas Edison's company stopped production on the Vitascope in November of that same year. By that time, there were hundreds of theaters operating all over the United States. This would mean, in fact, that Erie was home to the first paid movie theater and not New Orleans. But that seems to be conveniently left out of the history books. And I'll be okay with that, because I found the love of my life. John, tell me why I'm standing in a field at my lunch hour when I got cars down on the 18th Street line right now.
Gentlemen, the people of Erie are coming to Hoffman's Grove, whether we like it or not. We might as well capitalize on that.
So, what do you suggest?
We'll put up a boardwalk down to the beach, build concessions.
So what are you planning on calling this paradise? This woods by the sea?
Let's call it Waldameer. Or call it whatever you want. It doesn't make a difference. All I know is that we have to compete with these guys across the way.
You want to go to war with the Scott estate?
Yes, that's exactly what I want to do.
I need a reason why, John.
It's simple economics. The Scott estate controls the land over there, but they don't control the full beach. Now, if we can get access to the beach, we end up controlling the season, when it starts and when it ends.
You know, we have this railroad picnic coming up. We kind of got bigger fish to fry right now.
Gentlemen, make it happen.
I'll handle it, sir.
I hope you're right about this. But little did they know that a sinister plan was being hatched just next door.
Sir, I've notified Cleveland and Buffalo, just like you asked.
And the sheriff?
Yes, the sheriff too. He'll be at the hotel the first thing in the morning.
Good. That's good.
Sir, if I may ask, what's this all about anyway? You may not ask. This is business of the estate. You got that? Not a word to anyone.
The following day, Sheriff Krause made his way out past the Algerine farm and down to the Massasauga Hotel.
Good morning, Sheriff. How can I help you today?
Well, they say I haven't been paying your bills, so I'm here to shut you down.
Sheriff, come in, sit down. Nah, Sheriff, you know me. I got all my paperwork, all my bills are paid. They're just trying to shut me down. Pardon me, sir, for interrupting, but we are receiving phone calls from both Buffalo and Cleveland. Apparently, there's a rumor that we're closed for tomorrow. Do you see what I mean, Sheriff Krause? These are probably the same people that canceled my meat delivery earlier this week.
Now, I'm gonna assume this is over that railroad picnic you guys are hosting tomorrow. What is there, 10, 12,000 people coming into town? That's a lot of money.
Now, who do you think would have the means and the motive to pull something like this off?
William Lawrence Scott.
You think the Scott estate did this?
The dead guy, right?
Later that morning, Sheriff Krause pays a visit to the butcher shop.
Good afternoon there, Mr. Ackerman.
Oh, it's good to see you this morning, Sheriff.
How about this weather? It's a little chilly for August, don't you think? So, Paul, I gotta ask you, I hear that someone called to cancel the order for the Massasauga Hotel.
Ah, yes, it was the strangest thing. My brother Peter took the call.
You would like to cancel the order? The entire order, sir? Are you sure?
You know, he said he sounded a little like the guy that worked at the Algerine farm.
Why do you think somebody would do such a thing?
I don't know, but that would have been catastrophic for the hotel, and probably would have been really embarrassing for the trolley company.
Well, I guess that would be pretty embarrassing for the trolley company. It would probably make their stock drop. And then the Scott estate, well, they'd probably pick it up cheap.
Yes, I guess that's possible. Algeria farm, huh?
Well, I thank you very much there, Paul. And the wife would also like a pound of ham.
Later that morning, Sheriff Krause decided to visit the Algeria farm. The renowned Algeria farm stables, once owned by William L. Scott and now controlled by his son-in-law, Charles Strong.
Yeah, Terry, I'm heading off for lunch.
Have a seat there. Well, Tom, you're a regular fixture down at the butcher, ain't you? What's cooking in that noggin of yours? Sheriff, you got me all wrong. I'm just a simple farmhand tending to the horses and such. Ain't no scheming bone in my body. Simple, huh? Well, Tom, let me lay it on the line for you. Word on the windmill is that you've been mixing with some shady characters. Characters who got a hankering for disrupting the big old railroad employee picnic this weekend. Railroad picnic? Why, Sheriff? I reckon I ain't got nothing to do with that. I'm more interested in the horses' gossip than any old picnic. Now, Tom, don't play coy with me. You see, the Erie Motor Company stands to make a pretty penny from that picnic, and if it goes belly up, well, let's just say there's a few gentlemen that won't be too pleased. You catch my drift? Drift? Sure, Sheriff, but what's that got to do with me? I'm just a humble stable hand brushing down the horses and such. Tom, I've seen more schemes than a snake oil salesman at a county fair. You've been chatting up folks from the Scott estate, whispering secrets like a wind through the hayfields. Now spill the beans. What's the game here? Sheriff, you got it all wrong. I was just discussing the weather with old Mr. Strong. You know how he gets when the clouds gather. As for the secrets, I reckon the horses know more about me than anyone else. Tom, I've got my eye on you. One false move and I'll have you mucking out stalls in the county jail. You hear me? Crystal clear, Sheriff. But just so you know, my horses vouch for my innocence. They're stand-up witnesses, the whole herd of them. Don't test me, Tom. Keep your nose clean or I'll be saddling you straight into a heap of trouble. Now get.
folks began to arrive early in the morning of the big railroad picnic. Over 10,000 people from all walks of life exited the trains and made their way to the awaiting trolley cars that were operated by the Erie Motor Company. Visitors as far away from New York and Chicago were loaded onto trolley cars headed for the Massasauga hotel grounds. For many families of the railroad employees, this was their first trip to a beach resort, or their first trip anywhere. It must have been quite a thrilling experience. One by one, the families would make their way onto the beach. By lunchtime, it's reported an estimated 10,000 visitors, along with a few thousand citizens of Erie, took part in the festivities. Wondering at the marvel of Thomas Edison's Vitascope, this single picnic exposed this new technology to thousands of people and ignited an entire industry. Would you allow me to have this dance? Dance instructors provided afternoon classes for those wanting to participate in the nighttime festivities. At the end of the evening, the Erie Motor Company was waiting with trolleys to take the revelers back to the train station.
Good morning, Sheriff Krause.
Good morning, John. Some of the guys from your shop said you might be down here.
Yeah, sometimes I come out here to clear my head, just to think.
Well, I wanted to congratulate you on the picnic yesterday. It seemed to go without a hitch.
Thank you, Sheriff.
The odds were against you, but you managed to pull it off. So, what's next? Well, what do you think of this place? Maybe we'll buy this. I think that's a great idea, John.
James Marshall just passed away. This was his land. Now I gotta convince the board of directors to see if we can buy it.
Ah, that's right. Didn't they just bury him up there in Trinity Cemetery?
Who knows, maybe in 100 years, people will still be coming out here. You might be right, John. You might be right.
Just who in the heck did you get to play John Casement?
I was told that my hotel room was going to have a fully stocked minibar. That was also a lie.
I like railroads.
You know how I get when the clouds get together.
I am a professionally trained actor. I do not need this job. I do not need this stress in my life. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I thought the film was good, but, I think it could have used a little bit more me.
As one of the executive producers of this film, I would just like to say thank you so much for the talent and time that it took for you to go through all this and put this together for us. This is absolutely amazing, and I'm going to tell my kids about it. I mean, this is just absolutely wonderful. I guess you can't really even bring it all to words for you.